presentation of Fox Sports.
We are the Hawks. We are St. Louis.
We don't mean to rub it in. However, it is warm and sunny here in beautiful Jupiter, Florida. And today it's the Miami Marlins and the St. Louis Cardinals. When the Cardinals arrived this morning to the complex, they received bad news concerning their closer for this upcoming season, Jason Mott.
Jason Mott felt something in his elbow after throwing on Thursday up in Port St. Lucie. Decided to have him looked at. Was given an MRI. And what we have found that he has a mild muscle flexor strain.
So what does that mean? It means that Jason Mott will start this season presumably on the disabled list. That's Rick Horton. Great to have him back for another season here on Fox Sports Midwest. I'm Dan McLaughlin. What does it mean right now, though, for the St. Louis Cardinals?
Well, it's one position where you don't want to have an injury, your closer. The good news from the Cardinals' point of view is they have Mitchell Boggs coming off a great season and a lot of good young arms in that bullpen.
Let's take a look at what really could be a key to the season. It's our Toyota keys to today's game. Good to see him back from the World Baseball Classic, and that's catcher Yadier Molina.
He is the team leader as of now. Yadier Molina, very durable behind the plate. 138 games behind the plate a year ago. He is the face of this franchise.
And it is one of the final tune-ups of this spring training camp for Lance Lynn. The big righty gets the start today for Mike Matheny's club. We're set to go. A beautiful afternoon for baseball. A packed house expected. The Cards, the Marlins, coming up next. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Ford, the official cars and trucks of the St. Louis Cardinals. By Steak and Shake, just no equal. And by Bud Light, it's the sure sign of a good time. Here we go. And here we go for Spring Training Baseball 2013 from Roger Dean Stadium here in Jupiter, Florida. Alongside of Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Let's take a look at the starting lineup, which is presented by Fairmount Park. It's Descalso, Taveras, and Holiday, followed by Molina. He'll bat cleanup. Then Matt Adams, we presume he's on the club as we break for Arizona to start the season. Then Wigginton, tough spring training for him. Chambers, Cosma, and Lynn. Again, that's brought to you by Fairmount Park.
And Dan, still some opportunities as spring training winds down. 7 games to go. There are players still trying to make clubs here in Jupiter.
Nathan Eovaldi, he's 3-0, 3.33 ERA, has jumped up just slightly to 3.38 after his last start. And that gives you an idea just how good he's been.
Well, this is an interesting club, the Marlins. They lost a lot of their key players from a year ago. They still have their best player in Giancarlo Stanton, but they lost a lot of key players through trade in the offseason. They're going to rely on guys like Eovaldi to make up the difference.
Defense behind this right-hander today with Gorkys Hernandez trying to make the club. He's in left. Chris Coughlin, a former Rookie of the Year in center. Austin Kearns, he's in right. It's Polanco, Echevarria, Maleka, and Dobbs along the infield. And we assume that Kyle Skipworth will be the backup catcher when they break camp. And he's behind the plate today. Eovaldi is on the mound, so that's a look at your Marlins defense. Austin Kearns trying to make this club, and he's only hitting 100 thus far in spring.
And he is in the 4th spot here this afternoon. Again, spring training is this great kind of irony, Dan. It's a beautiful place to be. 85 degrees today. Everybody loves the feel of spring training, but there are guys that are really feeling pressure right now every single at-bat because it could mean making a job and getting a job or not.
Here is Daniel Descalso. He's in the leadoff spot. Mike Matheny had Matt Carpenter in the leadoff spot yesterday. And a fastball, and we're underway for a strike. Very good spring for Descalso, who's hitting .327 overall, a couple of home runs, and he's driven in 5. He had a home run taken away yesterday. Reviewed amongst the umpires, not an official review like you'll have in the regular season with the video cameras and the tape machines, but it was reviewed by the umpires as far as them coming together, and then that home run taken away. Up the middle, base hit for Descalso. You know, Rick, a lot has been made of Matt Carpenter playing second base, but Descalso has done nothing wrong in this camp to say that he couldn't be your starter.
Well, one thing he's done very, very well is help Carpenter out as he takes his pitch back up the middle to start this game off. And he's been a solid part of this Cardinal club. And his importance, I think, even got bigger with the injury to Rafael Furcal because of his versatility. He can play every infield position. Cardinals lucky to have Descalso.
Oscar Taveras now. He's in right field. Carlos Beltran is back from the World Baseball Classic along with Yadier Molina. Beltran is still, though, nursing a sore toe from a foul ball about 4 weeks ago. So Taveras, even if there was no injury to Beltran, was going to see a lot of playing time, and he has not disappointed one bit.
10 RBIs is spring training, showing power to all fields. Really a can't-miss prospect, just 20 years of age.
And he skies one towards left. Gorkys Hernandez is under it for the first out. There you get a look at number 87, Oscar Taveras, who's also played center field. And as you mentioned, Rick, he's only 20 years of age, so you see that body there. He's going to grow into that body and just get better and better.
And the real question is, where is his position long term? Again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when for him, as well as a number of other Cardinal prospects. But Taveras, many think, can be a center fielder. Others think he should be a corner outfielder. But he'll be one of the two eventually.
Mike Matheny has talked about being aggressive and running the bases and really generating some offense if he can. and not sitting back and waiting for guys like Holiday and some of the others to knock it out of the ballpark. And he's been aggressive as far as starting runners. Matt just a 182 average here in spring training. But he's one of the guys you don't worry about. At the end of the season, you'll look up. Yeah, you'll see 25, 30 home runs and nearly 100 driven in and probably over a 300 average. One out, runner at first, and an 0-1 pitch to Holiday. He cranks one out to deep left center field. Did he get enough of it? This ball is off the base of the wall. Descalso, no hesitation. He will score, and the Cardinals score the first run of the game. RBI double for Matt Holiday, and his 5th RBI this spring.
Cardinals have talked about the importance of moving runners along. That's really the best way to move a runner along. Hit one off the center field wall. Matt Holiday showing his classic power. The wind's blowing out a bit to left here today. But he gets most of this, maybe off the end just a tad. Thought that ball might have a chance to get out. And he scores Descalso easily.
Just heard a nice round of applause for Yadier Molina back in camp, and he grounds it to the left side. A diving stop there by Polanco, the high throw, and they get Molina by a step. That has to be good news for the Marlins to see Polanco able to move to his left, dealing with a bad back the last couple of years.
Polanco's always had good hands, former Cardinal. One of those guys you hated to see leave the organization. He's so good with the Phillies. There he dives to his left, pops up. He will be a key to this Marlins team being respectable in the National League East. They have got a tough division to compete in, and Polanco and Juan Pierre, the center fielder, are going to be keys at the top of the lineup.
Here's Matt Adams. Very good camp for Matt. With the release of Ronnie Cedeno, you would have to figure that Descalso could be your backup emergency shortstop if need be. And Matt Adams makes this club because of Craig's versatility at first. He can play the outfield. And as Mike Matheny was telling me the other day, he said there's nothing else that Matt Adams can prove in the minor leagues.
Agreed.
So we've got to give him an opportunity to play, and he's made the most of it here in spring.
That opportunity has to include enough at-bats to keep sharp, and that's, I think, what they were most concerned about with Matt Adams.
That is ripped towards first. And Dobbs makes the catch. So Matt Holiday picking up his 5th ribby of the spring. Nearly knocked it out of the park. Descalso would come around to score. Daniel with the first run of this ball game. Half inning in the books. St. Louis on top. A run scored for Daniel Descalso, your starting second baseman, as he was driven in by Matt Holliday, your starting left fielder for the St. Louis Cardinals. Lance Lynn, a couple of more starts before we break camp, and this is the lineup he'll face today. Echeverria, then Polanco, and Dobbs here in the first. Kearns, Coughlin, Valleca, Skipworth, Gorkys, Hernandez, and Evaldi. Miami Marlins starting lineup, and the slim down Lance Lynn to the mound.
Definitely in better shape this spring training. Worked very hard this offseason to slim down, and really his stuff's been okay this spring. He hasn't had the full command yet, so he's gotten roughed around a bit, including 9 hits in his last outing. But Cardinals will hope that he can get stretched out here today with 5 or more innings, with maybe one more spring training start to go next week.
Echeverria, the shortstop, picked up from Toronto, and he chops it left side. One away. Defense for the Cardinals, it's Holliday, Chambers, and Tavares in the outfield. Ty Wigington signed a 2-year deal in the offseason. He'll play third this afternoon. Cosma just saw him at short. Descalso, Adams on the right side. And good to see Yachty back in camp.
Ty Wigington had at least 10 at-bats yesterday in AAA games trying to work on his timing. He's off to a bit of a slow start, but the Cardinals are relying on him and Matt Adams to provide more pop off the bench this year. That was something you look at last year's club, maybe not enough of a home run threat off the bench, but Wigington and Adams could be those guys.
He's played all over the infield in his major league career. Now at the age of 35, he'll be tested here. He's playing in. 2 outs. Play first, he can play second. Also a little bit of the outfield as well for Ty Wigington. And you talked about the at-bats yesterday. The reason why, Ty Wigington is 4 for 40 this spring. So he's hitting 100. They're trying to sharpen him up. And as you mentioned, 10-plus at-bats yesterday. My understanding is he had 4 hits. And it's just a matter of getting his timing down. But a long track record on Ty Wigington, plus a multi-year deal. He's going to make this club.
There's no question about that. And sometimes the minor league camp day is just what a big leaguer needs, just to get enough at-bats. And once the games start, you're only going to get 2 or 3 at-bats. You're trying to get a lot of people playing time. And so not enough at-bats to go around with 37 players right now on your active roster. And so I think it was a good move to send him there and kind of maybe get a little jump start on that offense.
Top pinch hitter a year ago, speaking of guys that can do that off the bench, is at the plate here. Greg Dobbs, he's at first base for the Marlins. He's hitting .300 this spring, no homers and 1 RBI. Every team has hopes at this point in the season. I'm not sure how long that'll last for Miami. Massive overhaul in the offseason. Reyes, Burley, Bell, all gone. The big deal that they had with the Toronto Blue Jays. No more Hanley Ramirez. Josh Johnson is gone. What's interesting to note, though, is that this is a team that finished in last place and was on their way with those players anyway. And there have been some scouts that have been down here at spring training. As you know, Rick, they're all over the place in spring. And there's some that are telling us that this is a better team than they were a year ago at the beginning of the season.
Well, what you hope for, and the hope that you mentioned, is that they show some signs of life, some signs with the young players that there's a future, that they would like to see Chris Coughlin come back. You mentioned he was a Rookie of the Year in 2009, and injuries have kind of derailed his career a bit, but he's getting another shot this season. And the goal, I think, as well for the Marlins is to make sure that they win their fan base back. I think there's some angry folks that see that we invested in a new stadium and we lost some of our key players. You have to show me that there's some players worth cheering for.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. It's sharply to short on a hop. Pete Cosma makes the play. He has been nice and steady this spring. A 1-2-3 inning for Lance Lynn. Cardinals had a pair of hits at the top of the first as they serve as the visitors here at Roger Dean Stadium. They share this complex with the Miami Marlins.
The 7th time they've played the Marlins already in spring training, so they certainly know them well, and not a lot of teams left here on the coast in Florida to play against.
Wigginton bounces it slowly to short, and he now is hitting under 100 for this spring.
That was a classic at-bat that we've seen from him this spring, too, where he just kind of rolls over the top of the ball. He did that a couple of times yesterday, and really that's just a timing issue for him. He just needs to keep his hands back a bit longer and not get out in front.
Adrian Chambers, he's at center field today. Home runs, 6 RBIs this spring, and batting .250. And clearly the big news of today's camp for the Cardinals, Jason Mott. We assume he goes on the disabled list at the beginning of the season. They can date that back, so if he all of a sudden starts making a turn in the right direction, it's backdated a few days, so buy some time there. But we all look at now Mitchell Boggs, Trevor Rosenthal as candidates that could be closers here early on in the season.
Yeah, and Mike Matheny was pretty direct in saying that job is Mitchell Boggs's right now, and I think Trevor Rosenthal would be another option down the road. We saw just great promise out of him, and he came to spring training with the idea of maybe being in the rotation. There's Mitchell Boggs in the center, chatting with Jason Mott. And Rosenthal back in that bullpen. He'll be certainly getting important innings, let's put it that way.
Another chance for Echevarria, and he gets the speedy Chambers for out number 2. The last time anyone but Jason Mott saved a game for the Cardinals was September 19th of 2011. Octavio Dotel saved that ball game. So Jason led the league in saves a year ago.
Well, the wheels will be turning for Mike Matheny, and it's going to open up an opportunity for somebody to make this club that would not have otherwise. And you just have to rely on having a team that's got some depth, Dan. Other organizations, you lose your closer, there's not much hope. But the Cardinals have lost their shortstop, one of their aces in Chris Carpenter, and now their closer for some period of time, and yet there still seems to be optimism in that clubhouse.
The Cardinals, really the story of this camp outside of the injuries, early on at least, was Michael Wacha, and I would assume that we're going to see him at some point this year. Now, he's being conditioned as a starter in the minor leagues, and by the way, he's made a couple appearances in minor league camp and has just blown people away.
Yeah, he pitched yesterday again, and the news just keeps getting better on Michael Wacha. Again, it's not if, it's when with the big, tall right-hander.
1-0 midway through 2. St. Louis on top. Cardinals with a lead of 1-0. The RBI for Matt Holliday to drive in Daniel Descalso. Remember, season tickets are still available, and there are fan-friendly values as well. Just go to cardinals.com/values. That's the Six Flags double play combo, Hunter Family Sundays, the Prairie Farms ice cream sundaes, the Phillip at Phillip 66, and more. Great deals, cardinals.com/values.
And we're looking at great seats here at Roger Dean Stadium. The fans down the right field line just beyond the Cardinals bullpen. And it's a very unique experience in spring training. People love coming down here. Nice crowd on hand again. A very warm afternoon.
People at home saying, thanks a lot, Rick.
Sorry.
It is cold, we understand, back home, and snow on the way. But not here in beautiful Jupiter, Florida. Austin Kearns, 2 for 28 this spring. Let's talk a little bit, Rick, about Lance Lynn and significant amount of weight that he has dropped. The guesses are around 40, 50 pounds. What does that do to your delivery and release point, mechanics? Just trying to get used to a new body.
Well, I think part of what he's trying to get on the positive side is more stamina and more strength to get past the 6th and 7th inning and not get tired, not have kind of rough spots throughout the course of a year, and be able to go all through the grind of a big league season. You know, he was an all-star a year ago and just had a great first half, and I think that's one of the hopes, is that he's going to be stronger longer. As far as his mechanics, still basically throw the ball the same way. And it's just a matter of kind of understanding your body awareness as a pitcher and making sure you're not rushing out too quickly and staying in control of what you're doing physically. And it seems to be working for him so far this afternoon. There's his delivery, compact. Got a good live arm.
25 years of age. Started out 11-4. Made the All-Star team, as you mentioned, a year ago. There's a liner into left center and a base hit. Chris Coughlin with a one-out hit and the first base runner for Miami. We'll be back at it again tomorrow here from Roger Dean Stadium. Hope you're with us. At noon on Fox Sports Midwest, the Mets and the Cardinals will come your way tomorrow at noon. You talk about stamina, and that's what the month of August did to Lance Lynn a year ago. ERA in 7 games was at 7, so he talked about wearing out, wearing down, and that was a month that he pointed to. He did finish up on, I think, an uptick. The fact that he was pitching fairly well at the end of the season. He was frustrated, though, going in the bullpen after having an all-star first-half campaign in the rotation.
One of the things you like about Lance Lynn in terms of his repertoire is he has a fastball down in the zone and up in the zone where he can get outs. And I think the key pitch for him, we've seen a couple of good, sharp breaking pitches so far this afternoon. To me, that's his key pitch. If he can add that more consistently, I think the fastball just gets better and the strikeouts pile up.
2 balls and no strikes. Chris Valleca is at the plate. Getting 184 this spring. Signed a minor league deal in the offseason. He had 7 years in the Reds organization and played in 65 games in the big leagues. I would also think, Rick, having Yadier Molina back certainly is a positive and can help. It can't hurt having him back there.
You bet. It's going to help a guy like Lance Lynn, but I know Mike Matheny laments Yadier Molina not being here to catch some of the younger guys that were getting their first opportunity in a big league spring training. You know, that's one guy you really don't want to have absent for 3 weeks in spring training as your catcher and your leader, and some missed opportunities there. Tony Cruz has done a nice job behind the plate, but there's only one Yadier Molina.
Team Puerto Rico losing to the Dominican Republic in the World Baseball Classic Final out in San Francisco. Liner into center. That'll drop in for a base hit. Back-to-back singles, and it brings in Kyle Skipworth.
The off-speed pitch we were talking about. This one sits up in the middle of the zone just a bit. Not quite as sharp as the one he threw earlier. Had break to it, but it was a little bit of a lazier break. And that gives Valleca a chance to center it up and drive it up the middle.
There's Kyle Skipworth. Not an ideal situation for the Marlins to have two catchers that hit from the left side, which is what they're going to start with, it looks like, to begin their season. Skipworth has been in their organization. He was a first-round pick in 2008. Was played in 19 Major League games. That's all his experience. If Jeff Mathis, who they thought might be their backup catcher, but he broke his collarbone against St. Louis in late February, so it looks like Skipworth is their guy behind the plate, at least as a backup.
Makes you think of the teams that eventually have to break camp without a left-handed reliever, and you'd say, now, how can they do that? That doesn't have good balance. Well, there's not anybody good enough to make this club. At some point, you just have to take your best players. You would prefer to have balance, but if you don't, you just got to go with what you've got.
The starter will be Rob Brantley. John Buck was traded to the Mets, and he was their starter a year ago. The last pitch, a little changeup, and a nice pitch by Lynn.
Yeah, perfect location for that changeup, and he had Skipworth way out front.
1 ball and 2 strikes. It's Coughlin with good speed at second base. Cosma trying to keep him close. Even how Molina just received that last pitch. So soft and quiet back there, trying to frame it up.
Well, there are catchers that make every pitch look like a ball, and there are catchers that make them look like strikes just by the way you receive it in towards your body. And Molina has an incredible ability to handle that glove.
Did not go, so bases loaded. And a dangerous spot here for Lance Lynn early on. Started the ball game, 1-2-3 inning, then the strikeout of Kearns to start this inning. Now back-to-back singles and a walk. And here is Gorkys Hernandez trying to make this club.
The leadership of Yadier Molina calming down Lance Lynn. You're about at that time in spring training where you no longer say it's only spring training. I think teams in the new era really come out firing day one in spring training, trying to win, trying to impress. But I think the pressure gets ratcheted up a bit because you know you don't have much more time to get ready and get your A game.
So 1 out, bases loaded for the left fielder Hernandez. A fastball and a strike. Hernandez is a 25-year-old outfielder that won the batting title in winter ball this last year. In Venezuela, he hit .372. He also led in runs, hits, and steals, and that really opened up some eyes. Their hitting coach a year ago is Eduardo Perez, and he lowered Hernandez's hands, they said, at the end of last season, carried over into winter ball, and it's carried over into spring training, and a legitimate shot to make this team. Tino Martinez is their hitting coach now.
A lot of changes with the coaching staff in Miami. With Ozzie Guillen being let go. Familiar face in that dugout still. Tony Perez had a chance to visit with him during batting practice. One of the greats of this game. Always smiling.
You speak Spanish or English with Tony?
It was English. I have to work on my Spanish a little bit. You know, I'm not in mid-season form yet.
Two balls and 2 strikes on Gorkys Hernandez, the pitcher on deck. Ground ball to the right side. Tough play on that hop. Descalso makes it. Run scores to tie it up. And it's 1-1 here in the bottom of the second. RBI for Hernandez, his 6th.
Just putting the ball in play to the right side. No chance for Descalso to have a play at the plate. And that's what you're going to have to do if you're the Marlins. You're going to have to manufacture runs, take advantage of opportunities, not strike out very much. This club struck out a ton a year ago, and the hopes with Pierre and Polanco at the top of the lineup, guys that don't strike out very often, is that the nature of this team will change. They'll move the runners better. They'll take advantage of opportunities, and, of course, their big offensive threat will be Stanton in the middle of the lineup.
They were shut out 17 times a year ago. That was most in Major League Baseball. Runners at second and third with 2 down. 2 strikes on Eovaldi, who came over from the Los Angeles Dodgers, part of the Hanley Ramirez deal. He'll be a part of their rotation this summer.
Very anxious to see the Dodgers once the season starts, just what kind of club they'll have with payroll extending to the stratosphere, getting players like Hanley Ramirez, who is hurt, and he'll be out. Hurt his thumb in the World Baseball Classic, so he'll be missing for some time, but that really is going to be a potent lineup.
See Lynn really frustrated with that last call that he didn't get it. Runs it to 2-2. You don't see Yachty hold it
right
very often, and it's not to show up the umpire, but still, it does make a point. And that time he gets the call, and I don't think he went around. He'll take it. It's a strikeout. Marlins tie it up 1-1 after 2.
Jump out in the first inning. Leadoff batter Daniel Descalso drives one back up the box. That's how this game started here this afternoon. And Matt Holliday, the power in the middle of the lineup. Long fly ball off the left center field wall. It ends up as a double. An RBI scoring Descalso. Marlins with a run in the bottom of the second, and we are tied at 1 here in beautiful Jupiter, Florida.
Really hasn't been an overly warm spring here in Florida. I guess I should say hot.
Right.
And today is one of the hottest days we've had since we've been down here. Here's Lance Lynn. He'll lead it off, followed by Descalso and Oscar Taveras. As we went to break, Lynn and the home plate umpire had some words. And when I say that, it wasn't a confrontational conversation, more of just trying to figure out the zone, I think, from Lance, but also to make his point, too.
Well, you normally ask the question something like, that pitch, where exactly was that? And you try not to be too kind of, I guess, condescending about it, but you want to get your point across. And typically, if you ask it in the right way, you'll probably get something like, I might have missed that, and you say, okay, just check it. You want to make sure you confirm the fact that you both knew that he missed it. And it's all about the delivery. Don't want to yell. Just a nice, polite question.
And then Yachty comes out and grabs you and says, get in the dugout.
Well, the scratching the head is a little bit of a...
Now, wait a minute. What? A strikeout of Lynn. And he doesn't say anything there. A little smile on his face.
There's some wisdom. We actually prefer, as a pitcher, to have the catcher doing the arguing for you. And it doesn't have to be anything that we know about or even the fans know about. The catcher just normally just continues to look towards the mound, and he says his piece without turning around and looking at the umpire, and gets the message across.
I asked Mike Matheny about that. I said, when you were playing, were you a guy that had a lot of conversations with the home plate umpire? And he said, I was one of the rare guys that never did. Right. He said, I just didn't feel it was my place to talk to him unless it had something to do with the game or my pitcher. And outside of that, I'm not talking to him.
I remember him having extended conversations with Jerry Crawford one day.
That was unbelievable.
Because Jerry Crawford was leaning on Matheny and pushing him over. As an umpire, often they'll put their hands on your back just gently. But he was putting so much pressure on Matheny as he was receiving the ball. He was falling over. Mike turned around to complain about it, and I believe he got tossed that game eventually.
This is my 16th year doing the games. I would say that was the oddest thing I've ever seen.
Bizarre.
Really bizarre. Check out the Cardinals all season long online at MLB.com, and also shop at Cardinals.com to get your spring training gear.
I'm just glad to see Mike Matheny in no pain today. In our short visit today, he just seemed very kind of comfortable. He had back issues, as many know, early in spring training that were really debilitating for him, just painful. Anybody that's had back problems knows what that can do for your sleep, and he's trying to do a pretty stressful job here, and I believe that pain has been alleviated, and happy for him.
Here's Oscar Taveras. I conducted a radio interview with Mike earlier in spring, and he said, do you mind if we do this walking? That's how we did the interview.
Wow.
Very hard for him to stand up. He said during games, that's how he normally is. He'll be on that top step or second step of the dugout, but a lot of times in spring training, they're outside the dugout as Taveras picks up a base hit. Hustling all the way, thinking two. On his way to second base, and he is out. Strong throw in from Gorkys Hernandez. So Taveras trying to extend a single into a double and thrown out by Hernandez from left. Midway through 3, and we're tied up at 1.
There's the Cardinals' future, Oscar Taveras, a base hit in the top of the third inning with 2 outs, and he tries to stretch it into a double, showing one of the many tools that he has, not just the hit, but also the speed, trying to go all the way to second base on a ball hit to left field. He picks up an extra gear, and he is out at second base and appears to actually get his cleat stuck in the glove of Valleca, the second baseman, and it took him a while to extract the shoe from the glove, but I like the hustle for Taveras, a good opportunity to see his tools at work.
Ball 1 from Lance Lynn. He'll deal with the top of the lineup here for the Marlins. Tie ball game 1-1. Echeverria grounded out to short his first time up. A former Marlin and a former Cardinal officially announced his retirement from baseball this past week. Edgar Renteria, World Series hero for the Marlins. Ground ball to Matt Adams. 1 away.
Well-respected player in whatever clubhouse he was in, but when he was with the Cardinals, he was much more of a leader than people gave him credit for. They called him El Capitan because of his kind of leadership abilities, but it was kind of a quiet leadership, but he was very much a professional player on the field, did a lot of things well.
Here's Polanco. Mike Redmond, the new manager for the Marlins, actually was a prospect with Renteria coming up through the system at that time for the Florida Marlins, and he said that he used to drive Renteria all over the place and basically was his interpreter because he didn't know English. And he said we went to McDonald's just about every day because we had no money, and the only word that Renteria knew was 4. Get me the number 4. And he said it was a chicken sandwich, and he had a couple of chicken sandwiches every day for him.
Might not even like chicken. It just, that's the number he knew.
Yeah. Edgar had a heck of a career.
Well, as funny as that is, try living in Dominican Republic and having to order food there. I mean, you just realize that's part of the adjustment, and really the Cardinals are dealing with that with Oscar Taveras a bit. Part of his maturation, we keep talking about him just being 20 years of age, but he's trying to learn a second language here too and be comfortable as a player in Major League Baseball ultimately, but the language is part of that. You have to be comfortable with the travel and comfortable with your teammates and comfortable with the press, and that's part of what they're trying to help Taveras with.
Here's a 2-1 pitch, and Polanco a little tardy. One of the guys that has really helped out Taveras with that language barrier is Yadier Molina's brother, Benji, who's the secondary hitting coach, and he's actually sat on the side of interviews because anybody from the national media that comes into camp, and they all do, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, the major writers from the various places, and
that's who they want to talk to.
They want to talk to Oscar Taveras.
Right.
And they want to make sure, the Cardinals do, that his words are brought properly to the reporters. There's been a lot of the players that actually called Mike Matheny in the offseason and said, put his locker next to mine in camp. One of those was Molina. John Jay has been very helpful.
Well, there's two things going on there. One is he being translated correctly, and is he speaking English correctly? But the other thing the veterans are always attuned to is he's saying the right things, and that's also important to get your leadership into that a bit and provide some insight into how to handle yourself and how to make sure you're not kind of saying the wrong things and being kind of self-congratulatory. That's easy to happen when you're 20 years old and everybody comes and wants to talk to you, not to deflect kind of the attention to some of your teammates, and so that's part of the learning curve for him.
2-2 the count on Polanco. Grounded out to third, first time up. Third strikeout for Lance Lynn.
You don't see Polanco strike out very often. Hard sinker down and in. from Lance Lynn, who I think's looked pretty sharp here this afternoon. He had a couple of hiccups there in that second inning, a couple of hits and a walk. He really hasn't been hit very hard at all today.
So 2 outs and nobody on. At times he struggled with that pitch.
There's the sinking fastball, down and in, right in on the hands, ties him up. Polanco always in the top 5 or 6 in the National League and toughest to strike out.
2 balls and no strikes. What might have been last year's NLCS comebacker to Lance Lynn, and it could have been a double play ball on a night that the Cardinals could have clinched the pennant. And it went to Pete Kozma out of his reach, and the rest is history. Barry Zito was a different pitcher that night. The Cardinals offense never came back alive. We head to the 4th, tied up at 1. Home game today for the Marlins. You wouldn't know it. A lot of red. The powder blues. Familiar look of the St. Louis Cardinals throughout the years.
I'm looking forward to seeing the new look uniforms, the throwback jerseys. We saw them on display during the offseason and showed them off at the Caravan and other places, winter warm-up, and I think they're going to be very, very sharp.
Cardinals will wear that first homestand that Saturday against Milwaukee. That'll also be a giveaway for that jersey. 1 ball, 1 strike on Matt Holliday, who has the only RBI for St. Louis. Here's a 1-1. It's sharply to short. You can see why a lot of scouts like him. Only hit .254 last year in the American League East with Toronto, but he could pick it. Good play defensively to his left, and Holliday is retired. Don't forget, we're back at it again tomorrow, noon St. Louis time. Mets and Cardinals from Jupiter. It's our Budweiser What's on Tap. Jake Westbrook will make his 5th start of the spring. Had 6 innings of work last time out. Make a case he's been the most impressive, at least as far as looking at just 1 start. His last start was outstanding. Molina slicing one down the right field line. That's a fair ball. And Yachty will stay put at first. One for 2 on the afternoon.
Always been a secret of Yadier Molina to be able to use all parts of the field. He can pull the ball when he needs to, and he also goes the other way very well. Pitch down and away. Just barely keeps it fair. Nice to have him back in camp. Every place we go, we mentioned the caravans, Dan. I know you had a chance to go on one this winter. We love those caravans. A chance to see a lot of Cardinal fans throughout the Midwest. They're so supportive of the team all season long. And you ask them to the group, who's your favorite player? And it is incredible how Yadier Molina has just outdistanced the rest of his teammates right now in terms of popularity.
And that ball gets through to the backstop, and an RBI opportunity here for Matt Adams, who, by the way, was on my caravan this last winter. And Matt talked about dropping about 20, 25 pounds at that point. The Cardinals sent a chef to Pennsylvania to work with Matt Adams and his family. And also he had cleanup surgery in his elbow, and he's gotten himself in very good shape. He's also shortened up his swing. Cardinals have talked about that if he's going to be at the big leagues, and you mentioned this earlier, it's a question of trying to maximize his playing time, but also making sure he stays sharp off the bench. And he was telling me on the caravan, that's the biggest thing for him at this point. He's always been an everyday player, so what do I need to do to stay sharp? Because when he was called up last year and then called upon to pinch hit, sometimes he looked lost.
Right.
Really had lost that edge.
There were times where they were pounding him in, and also he was getting fooled on off-speed pitches. But you see the short, compact swing there.
It's a lot shorter.
He has good power to all fields, too, and he doesn't have to kind of jump at the ball. He can kind of let it just happen with the power that he has. And, again, you mentioned Mike Matheny saying he's already proven he belongs in the big leagues. It's just a matter of having an opportunity and enough at-bats. With Alan Craig, the first baseman, you're going to want him out there as often as possible, so it's going to have to be a rotation system of sorts. Maybe Craig plays some outfield, but trying to find at-bats for Matt Adams will be a job for Mr. Matheny.
Cardinals feel comfortable defensively with what they have in the minor leagues. As Adams hits it up the middle, there he is. Wow, Echeverria, what a play, and a pick at first by Dobbs. That saves a run. And again, it gives you an idea of just how good this guy is up the middle. That was spectacular.
Two big-time plays already this inning for Echeverria, and this one right back up the box. And like all good athletes, he was quick, but he didn't rush. Just sensed that he had the athleticism to make that play and didn't kind of panic about it, but was quick to the ball up the middle and showed his good hands and good arm.
Ty Wigginton grounded out to short first time up. 0 for 1, runner at third. We're tied up 1-1 here in the fourth. Really a fine play on both ends, Rick.
Well, the shortstop makes the good throw, but that's not an easy play to pick for Dobbs at first base. And if he doesn't catch that ball, it's a run.
The 2-0 pitch to Ty Wigginton. Ground ball, and Polanco makes the play. Nothing going right now for Ty Wigginton. 0 for 2 on the day. The Cardinals have stranded 2. About hit the Marlins 4-2. We're tied up 1-1 here from Roger Dean Stadium, spring training home for both these teams. Lance Lynn has finished up his warm-up pitches. He'll get Kearns, Coughlin, and Baleka for the Marlins. Rick Horton, Dan McLaughlin with you. We talked about it earlier, start of our telecast. Jason Mott on the DL, an elbow issue, so Mitchell Boggs will get the first crack at it to be the closer for St. Louis. Kearns struck out looking first time up. I don't know about you, but it's hard for me to believe that this is year number 9 in the organization for Mitchell Boggs.
Time flies.
Man, oh man.
Well, Mitchell Boggs really established himself as one of the premier setup men in the National League. There have been times where he's closed for the Cardinals before. In fact, at one point with he and Mott first coming on to the big league scene, you were wondering now which one's going to be the closer, which one will be the setup guy. Boggs really has outstanding stuff, and so I don't think he's going to be kind of wowed by that position, but I like the kind of the clarity of Mike Matheny to just make that quick decision and say he's our guy. We're not going to kind of mess around with this. He's our guy right now, and we're not going to kind of leave it open for conversation. Mitchell Boggs will close games for us right now.
Boggs does have 4 career Major League saves. The Reds have announced that Aroldis Chapman will be their closer this year. There's some talk that he would be in the rotation. That's now official. He's their closer, and their bullpen looks to be very tough as Kearns is hit by the pitch. And Lynn is saying that he swung the bat. How many times you see that, though, with Austin Kearns in his career? Remember all the pitches that would hit him on the wrist?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of leans over the plate. So nobody out. Kearns aboard, and here is Chris Coughlin, who singled and scored back in the second inning. We're tied up 1-1. Rick Horton, Dan McLaughlin. And we understand that Adam Wainwright has joined us down in the dugout. Adam, thanks for being with us. How are you?
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
How has spring gone for you?
It's been great. It's been amazing weather for baseball down here. It's been cool, about 60 degrees, 65 degrees to 70 degrees every day for the games. We've had a really cool spring training, so good weather to get in here and get rid of this grind. I see that sunflower seeds have not just gone with Kyle Loesch. Jaime's going to carry on that
It's only
tradition.
a matter of time.
Yeah. But it's been a good time, man. We're having fun together as a team.
Adam, I noticed you had a bullpen today, and it looked like you were working on some things. Just how do you feel about where you are with your stuff this time of spring training? You know, spring training is an awful long kind of ordeal, but you really just want to be ready for that first start. How are you feeling right now in terms of your stuff?
I'm feeling great. I really am. You know, I've taken each individual game differently as I went out there. I had a plan on what I wanted to accomplish and the stuff I wanted to work on. And my last 4 starts, the 3 before my last start, I really executed well. And last start, you know, I got away from the execution, tried to do a few things too much. And so today I wanted to simplify things, get back out on the mound, that practice mound, and really work on throwing the ball downhill, a couple of pitches up in the zone, working my breaking ball back in the strike zone, and my changeup has come a long way this spring training. So I'm happy where I'm at. I'm making good positive adjustments each time out there, and that's the name of the game.
We look forward to that first start. That's not too far from now for opening day. But I do want to ask you, Adam, about Jason Mott, the news there. Obviously, kind of rough news to take this morning, and we learned of Jason's elbow issues. And how do you feel about that, or what's kind of the general mood among the pitching staff right now on Jason?
Well, the good thing is, you know, it's not his ligament, what we're told, and he's got a strained muscle and those kinds of things. Yeah, they do take some time to get back healthy again, but as a pitcher, you know, you're going to have some things like that happen throughout the course of your career. He's been extremely healthy his whole career. He's been a guy we can count on every time out there, and that's a guy that we hate to lose. Obviously, he had 42 saves last year, led the league, did a great job. We can count on him in that 9th inning. But we have great quality arms to step in and take his place while he's out. The good news is, you're looking at whatever we heard 4 to 5 weeks, whatever it was. That's a month of the season, and that's bad. But you got 5 more months of the regular season and then the postseason after that. So we'll have him for a great extended period of time, as long as he gets back out there, does what that training staff tells him to do, and stays disciplined in his rehab program, which we know he will because he's a good hard worker. So tough news to hear, but we know him, and he's going to work hard to get back out there.
And not just losing Jason Mott, but you guys have dealt with, as a team, losing Adam Wainwright a couple of years ago and Chris Carpenter at one point. So this is, I guess, something you guys have gotten pretty good at doing, just kind of turning the page and going with who you have. It's an old Tony La Russa line to say that you just got to go with who you've got and feel confident about that. But you guys have some experience in this.
Yeah, we do. You don't want to just say turn the page, because those guys mean a lot to us, and he's done a lot for us in his career here in St. Louis. So we'll miss him. We'll feel his presence. He'll be there every day working with us, and we'll look forward to getting back out there. But we do have some really, really talented guys that can step up. Mitchell Boggs does amazing stuff, and you got Trevor Rosenthal down there throwing 100 with a curveball and a changeup and a cutter. I mean, we got guys very, very capable of filling that void.
Here is Kyle Skipworth. Walked his first time up. Runners at first and third for the Miami Marlins. We're tied up at 1. Adam Wainwright has been kind enough to join us during our telecast. And, Adam, you can just imagine our fan base. They're craving baseball, and you have become a guy that has meant so much to this organization and gone through so much. So they're all saying, Dan, Rick, will you please ask him about the contract? I won't do that, but I will ask you this. How important is it for you to remain a Cardinal and to maybe attach the statement Cardinal for life for Adam Wainwright?
Well, there's nowhere I'd rather be. I think everybody knows that. My heart is in St. Louis, and I hope it stays there. I really do. These kinds of things are tough deals. It's a you want to just say, I'll take whatever you give me type thing, but this is a business, and you want to be smart. And
I think your agent just choked on a sandwich when you said that. So don't say that too much.
No, that's how I said you want to.
That's right. Okay.
You want to. That's why we have those agents, so our hearts doesn't get in the way. But I'm in a great situation here. I love it here. I feel like the fans really embraced me years ago, and I feel that. So it'd be a special thing for me to stay here.
And Rick was talking about this earlier with you, and you mentioned Carpenter for Kyle Mott. Most organizations, you lose those kind of players, they're saying, oh my goodness, how are we going to do this? You guys just say, no, we expect to win. And that really is the mindset now of this organization, isn't it?
It is. And you could take it from my time here all the way back to 2006. When we won the World Series, we lost for extended periods of time throughout the year. Eckstein, Edmonds, even Albert, Mulder, Marquis, or not Marquis, Mulder. Yeah, we did lose Marquis a little bit. Mulder, Marquis. We lost some big guys, and you just find a way to win. I think that's bred into us here in St. Louis. Every major league program, every major league organization finds a way to get it done because everybody's going to have injuries. But it does seem like we've had a lot of chips stacked against us for years and years. But it's a testament to the guys who keep coming up and stepping up and making big plays and making big pitches when we need them to, taking great at bats. In 2011, I think Lance Bergman said it best. He said, we couldn't have won that without every single individual effort that was going on out there. You look at even the guys, Adron Chambers came up and got some huge hits for us down the stretch. People came in and got huge bunts down and walks when they needed to. Guys stepped up and made big pitches when they needed to. You just find a way to make it happen, and that's what winning organizations do.
Bases loaded here as Lynn is in a little bit of trouble. I'm curious, Adam, the workload last year was pretty big after the surgery. How does that feel now, 2 years removed from the surgery? Try to explain to a fan what your body and maybe what your arm feels like differently from this time last year.
Well, I think Mitchell Boggs said it best to me. He came up to me today and he said, how'd you feel the other day? And I said, very average. I felt great, but I didn't execute well. And he said, I knew that. but you still found a way to get outs. And last year when I didn't feel great, it was really tough to get outs. Just my stuff wasn't there a lot of the time. And, you know, each month I get farther removed from that surgery, the more and more the life comes back in my fastball and my slider, my curveball, my changeup. So everything's a little bit sharper this year. I look forward to pitching, no doubt.
Adam, do you have a sense at all that there's maybe a little more attention on you in terms of leadership opportunities? Chris Carpenter obviously has been a big part of this staff and this ball club for a long time, and a key guy, and as you have as well. But do you get a sense that maybe there's a little more on your shoulders this year in that regard?
Well, you know, I do feel that a little bit more, but to be honest with you, I feel like a guy who has been in that role, even though Chris was there and maybe had a little more prominent role in the leadership side of it. I think I've been that guy for years anyways. You know, I don't think it's unnatural for me to be where I'm at right now. I told Mike early on in spring training this year, I'm not going to do a thing different. I'm going to be me, and I think that's good enough, and he completely agreed. You know, I want to lead for sure, but I also want it to be I want it to be natural. I want things to happen. I want things to flow, and I don't want to force anything. You know, if I'm not the guy that needs to step up and lead this team, so be it, somebody else will. But I think I am one of those guys, definitely one of those guys, if not one of the main guys.
Speaking of you being you, I've heard your name in conjunction with a star pitcher of the future for the Cardinals that I have not had a chance to see pitch yet, but Michael Wacha has been compared by many people that I've seen, Adam, as they say, hey, when you think Adam Wainwright, you think this guy. And so did you see any of that comparison with Wacha, and what were your impressions of him this spring training?
Each time I hear that, I think it's a great compliment because he keeps putting up zeros and striking everybody out. So
he's pretty nasty.
Yeah, I'll take it. You know, I've been in the big leagues almost 8 years, and I feel like that's more of a compliment than he probably does. So he is very poised. He has great stuff, and he knows how to use it. So now the key is to go down there and not try to do anything different. Just build off of what he's accomplished here in spring training. The minor league, especially that AAA Pacific Coast League, it is a tough grind. The travel is brutal. The hitting. The parks you play in are all hitters' parks, and you know, it can wear on you. So that's going to be a great test for him to go down and have success at that level, and also to have some failures and see how he rebounds from that. So it'll be a learning experience for him. But I don't think anybody in this camp has any doubts that he's going to go down there and mow through hitters, no doubt.
Well, Adam, we appreciate your time. We know that things are a little busy down there with all the sunflower seeds. You've handled yourself very well, even
as
without
always.
Kyle Lowe. So we appreciate it, and look forward to speaking to you for many, many years wearing that Cardinal uniform.
Yeah, hopefully so. Thanks a lot.
You got it. That's Adam Wainwright. What a class act he is, and the leader, along with Yadier Molina and a few others of this team. But he is something special and has been wearing that Cardinals uniform. Strikeout for Lance Lynn. He is 4 this afternoon. Many thanks to Adam for joining us. We have played 4 here. Austin Kearns was hit by a pitch and then came around to score on a sac fly by Gorkys Hernandez, and the Marlins have jumped out on top. It's 2-1 in the top of the fifth. We can't say enough about Adam Wainwright, the professional that he is, and just what he means on and off the field with this club.
And Adam Wainwright, one of those guys where you want the young players to be around him as often as possible, just to hear him conduct interviews and talk about the game and talk about what his job is professionally. And, you know, his influence is extraordinary. And I think he's right. He's been a leader. Even when he was younger, he was a leader. He just kind of is a presence. He can be kind of very light and you know, very comical at times, but I think when he gets between the lines, he becomes a fierce competitor, and I think that rubs off on his teammates. I love having Adam around, and I'm kind of with you. I just hope he's a Cardinal for a long time.
His agent was in town 2 days ago and had a long conversation, my understanding is, with Bill DeWitt as well as John Mozeliak, and they've talked about sense of urgency of this next week, really on both sides, saying we'd like to break camp knowing that we have a deal.
Steve Hammond's his agent, former teammate of mine, was a player in the Braves organization. I believe he played some with the Royals as well, and then got into being an agent, and he's really a class guy, and I think they're going to have those negotiations done professionally and courteously, as you would expect from somebody representing Adam Wainwright.
That's a very wow, what a play. The high chopper, and he takes a hit away from Adrian Chambers.
Another look at the extreme athleticism of the shortstop. He's got to go up to get this one. It's a high hop, but he's ready for it. Times it perfectly, and we know how well Adrian Chambers runs, so that's 3 outstanding plays by Echeverria, and I like what I've seen from him.
Here is Pete Kozma.
In fact, Polanco's made a couple of nice plays at third base.
Adam is one of those guys, too, I think, Rick, and I'm not sure you would agree with this. We'll see, but not everybody, maybe not 99% of the players that are out there, would you say that you would pay for what he's done and what he means to a franchise or city or fan base? You know, here's a guy that closed out a World Series as Kozma hits it into center field. I believe he should have at least one Cy Young Award. There's 2 outs, and speaking of guys that meant so much to this team, Stan Musial Harmonica Night coming up. Very unique giveaway the Cardinals have. This was done before the passing of Stan. It was on the schedule, and we'll celebrate his life when the Milwaukee Brewers are in town. That is April 12th at 7:15. But also thinking about the young players that are still here, what does he mean as far as guiding them along and that leadership that you spoke of? So paying for just even more than what you get between the white lines.
And you will pay for that, and the question is how much. It's always the consideration. John Mozeliak was talking to a bunch of Cardinal sponsors and supporters earlier this week, and he made a great statement. He said the first 3 years of a player's career, they get paid what we want to pay them. And then they get to arbitration, and then they get paid for what they've accomplished in the past. And it's all about what numbers they did their first 3 years, and they get paid for that. But then once you get to the free agency, it all becomes a matter of our expectation about what you're going to do in the future. And if you're going to tie somebody up for 4 or 5 years, you want to feel good about that. You want to feel like it's a good investment. And Cardinals obviously had that decision with Albert Pujols a couple of years ago, and it was not an easy one. But with Wainwright, I think you do have to consider his intangibles, what his presence is to this clubhouse, to this team. And I'd like to see him be a Cardinal for the next 4 or 5 years, or as long as he can pitch.
You also brought up in that interview, I'm glad you did, what he does on the side and what he works on. His bullpens are unique, where he's not a max effort guy in bullpens at all, or even when he warms up. As Lynn puts it in play. And the Cardinals go 1-2-3. We'll continue to talk about Adam and the Cardinals down here at spring training. You're watching spring training baseball on your home of the Cardinals, Fox Sports Midwest. over 300 soldiers in the 135th Attack Battalion from Whiteman Air Force Base, and Clinton will deploy for final training in their 2013 mission in Afghanistan. The Cardinals and Fox Sports Midwest, we always want to say thank you to the soldiers and their families for their service. We look forward to July. That'll be our annual This One's For You broadcast, and we'll join up with these soldiers via satellite and their families at Busch Stadium. So last week we all signed that. Had the honor of autographing that banner for the 135th. Soldiers receive that banner at their deployment ceremony tomorrow. We'll expect them that they'll take that to Afghanistan. We'll see it during our This One's For You broadcast in July. It's always a very special evening for us.
You bet. Very meaningful.
Echeverria drops down a bunt. Ty Wigington can't make the play. There's no other way to put it. It's been a tough camp and a tough day for Ty Wigington. There was a potential double play that he botched. He's had runners in scoring position at the plate. He's 0 for 2, and now this play.
He gets to the ball quickly enough, but just could not get a good handle on it. And I think he would have had time to throw out the speedy runner, but unfortunately just couldn't get the grip. And you're right, tough day. We've seen it before where guys had really tough spring trainings, and then all of a sudden it's April 1st, and they're crushing the ball. And we've seen it work the other way. You think about Cardinals having good springs, the first name that pops into mind is Shane Robinson, the Cardinal outfielder, who's also pushing to try to get a spot on this club, and he's done really everything that's been asked of him. He's kind of the extra center fielder behind John Jay, and he's a guy that can play left field and pinch hit quite a bit a year ago, but he's just been on fire, hitting about 450 this spring.
Speaking of the troops, we have Jack Lingle. He's a St. Louis native. He's watching with his son, Jack Jr., in Augusta, Georgia today. He is stationed there, serving our country. We thank him for what he does for us, and hopefully enjoying a little baseball today. I would think, without question, Shane Robinson has made this team, and it's not just what he's done at the plate, and he's had a great spring, as you mentioned, those numbers, but the fact that he also gives you versatility. He can play the center field position, and the Cardinals have said that Beltran will not play center field. Runner goes, and it's tapped foul. So just another reason why he would make this club.
John Jay obviously will get the majority of the starts in center field, and you still need to have a plan B in case he can't play there. And if Beltran is not going to be your extra guy, Robinson makes the most sense. Of course, Tavares, a man of the future in the Cardinal outfield, but I think he needs some more seasoning. But as John Mozeliak said earlier this week, the roster on opening day is not nearly as important as the roster on July 1st. Once we get to July 1st, we've got our team that is set to push towards the end of the season and go for the pennant. The Cardinals are used to playing important games in September, and so the roster at the beginning may not be that roster when you get to July.
Here's a 1-2. Ground ball, Ty Wigington out at second, and they turn the double play. The weekend against the Brewers is loaded up with giveaways. This is the one on the Sunday game, April 14th. The Gold and Platinum Glove Award presented by Rawlings. You'll take that home. Yachty will be presented with that award prior to the game in our first pitch. So Friday night, Stan the Man harmonica. Saturday, the Cardinals will make history as they wear their alternate uniforms. And we'll have a giveaway with those, and then the Yachty giveaway on Sunday. Those weekends are loaded with fans that come from out of town. Probably about 70 to 75% of the seats sold to those that come from outside the Metro St. Louis area. So make a weekend of that. Come on in. Slap the other way, and the catch is made by Matt Holliday. We played 5 here in Jupiter, Florida. Placido Polanco rounding into a double play. And his Marlins on top 2-1. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Plaza Tire, the quick change artist. By Budweiser, great times are waiting, grab some buds. By Bomarito, where price sells cars. By Chevy, visit your local Mid-America Chevy dealer today. And by Schnucks, your neighborhood hometown grocer. 6th inning rolls in on a beautiful afternoon. The second pitch of the top of the 6th. 2 balls and no strikes on the Cardinals second baseman this afternoon, Daniel Descalso. He's also in the leadoff spot for Mike Matheny's club in this lineup, and that's up the middle. Base hit. Second time he's done that.
Descalso a part of a double play in the bottom of the 5th inning. Lynn does his job, Wigginton does his job, but this is the toughest job, staying in on that double play with the runner bearing in on him. Daniel Descalso very nifty with the glove. He also has to be nifty with his feet on that play. And a good afternoon for Descalso, a couple of hits.
Now Oscar Taveras. He was signed by the Cardinals when he was 16 years old. Raw, to say the least, when you talk about Taveras. The pinch runner is Colton Wong at first. Matt Holliday is on deck. And as one of the Cardinals front office personnel told me, he said when you head to the Dominican, you either see kids walking with books in their hands, going to school, or they got a glove. One or the other.
The World Baseball Classic, I think a lot of folks are thinking, well, part of that is to bring baseball to these other countries like the Dominican and Puerto Rico. Let me tell you, baseball's already there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly about expanding markets worldwide with baseball, which I think makes some sense. But when you go to the Dominican Republic, baseball is so much a part of that culture. The heroes, great players that have come out of the Dominican for years. I mean, it really is, again, for a young player, that's the dream, to get to be a Major League Baseball player. And the Cardinals and the Dodgers, I would say, are 2 teams that I think the young Dominicans really aspire to play on.
This is popped up to the left side. Playable. Just watching the shortstop of the Marlins here today, Rick. He is smooth.
Very, very smooth. Makes it look easy. Shortstops are so athletic. Defense matters. We've seen that today. Cardinals turning a double play last inning, but the Marlins really controlling the ball in the infield, especially on the left side. Polanco out of the game now. Wilson Valdez, the new third baseman.
Here is Matt Holliday. So I guess from the Marlins perspective, Wilson Valdez is a better fit than Sean Figgins. Figgins just released. And Valdez was signed after he was released by the Giants yesterday.
Again, an example of the stress that players feel. That ball gets away from the first baseman, Dobbs, and Wong scampers to second.
Marlins last year, their second straight last place finish at 69 and 93. You know, think about some of the names, Rick, that they let go. Jose Reyes,
right.
Mark Burley, Josh Johnson, John Buck, Emilio Bonifacio. And according to reports, they slashed $160 million in future salary. And I think the point that you made earlier about the fan base is that the fan base bought into the rebuilding of the organization with the idea of moving into a new ballpark, primarily taxpayer funded. And all of a sudden you got the team after they've already gutted the team 2 previous times after winning. So how much can a fan base take?
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. If you're a fan of the Marlins, you have to kind of say, how did I allow myself to believe in that? But the organization has somehow managed to win a couple of World Series along the way, though, too, even with their manner of doing things. And maybe it's just, you know, you try to pick the develop talent, go for that one particular year and try to win then and just kind of gut the team and start over again.
1-2 the count on Holliday.
And again, very difficult for them to stay competitive in the National League Eastern Division anyway. Think about how good the Nationals have become. I think the Atlanta Braves are going to be very, very good this year. Their pitching's good. Their lineup is solid. Phillies, not really sure whether they have anything left in their tank. That team showed sign of aging a year ago.
This is hit deep down the right field line and drops in for a hit. Wong is held up at third base by Jose Oquendo. And a base hit to right field for Matt Holliday, and he's 2 for 3.
Wong has to make a decision of whether or not he thinks this ball is going to be catchable or not, and plays it safe and advances into scoring position at third base. And a little bit of a deke by the right fielder as well, who acted as if he was going to catch that ball. May have fooled Wong. Wong also a player with great potential and a great future as Cardinals second baseman at some point. Cardinals minor league system rated the best minor league system in all of baseball by a number of publications this offseason. And Dan, it wasn't that long ago that the Cardinals were 27th out of 30 teams, maybe just 3 years ago. And John Booch and his staff and the scouting department and all those who've kind of rebuilt this organization really deserve a lot of credit. And I spent the whole day over there yesterday, and they have one guy after another they're excited about. We got this guy, we got that guy, and we got this guy. And it's just incredible that the optimism has grown to such a great extent where, again, a few years ago it wasn't there.
And we're tied up with a base hit by Yadier Molina. Wong scores, and it's now a 2-2 game. Yadi is 2 for 3, picks up his 5th RBI, and this being his 6th appearance in games this spring for the Cardinals. And his afternoon is through.
Welcome back, Yadi.
You bet.
But to add to the thought as we look at the base hit the other way by Molina and the RBI, the minor league coaches also deserve a lot of credit. Number of faces over there, been around a long time. Steve Turco visited with him yesterday, and Galen Pitts, and names that Cardinal fans may not know, but these are coaches that are investing in young, talented players, teaching them the game, developing them, and really just fun to be over there visiting with those guys. Mark DeJohn really is running spring training for the Cardinals organization. He's a longtime Cardinal coach as well, and just really appreciate their effort. They had Alan Bennis yesterday, went over and shared with every player what it means to be a big leaguer. Alan Bennis in the scouting department now for the Cardinals, and they said it was just incredibly powerful what he had to say to these young players about being responsible and not blaming anybody else but yourself about performance. And Bennis, a name that these young players still remember, having a very good career with the Cardinals.
Ooh, good rip by Adams. Well, Matt has hit into some tough luck today. He lined out to first time up. A screamer off his bat, and then back in the fourth, there was that diving play up the middle at short that took a hit away, so he's 0 for 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. Runners at first and second. And to follow up on what you're talking about, Rick, the Cardinals basically have done this without sacrificing winning, which is most important at the big league level.
Right.
This is a world championship in 06, 11, and when you win, you're further down, obviously, in the draft. But yet the Cardinals have had key selections, this being one of them. You never know what you might find. And Matt Adams fights it off. Little looper into left center. That'll drop for a base hit. And the Cardinals have the lead. It's now 3-2 as Matt Adams picks up the RBI. And that's number 14 for the big man.
So I guess some fairness for Matt Adams eventually. He hits 2 balls hard, gets nothing to show for it. You'd hear a little flare to center field.
That's Christian.
And Christian scores from second base. He's an interesting young player.
He is.
Not so young.
Right.
Inexperienced, I would say.
But a good example of picking wisely is the compensatory pick for losing Albert Pujols turns out to be Michael Wacha.
Jammed a bit, but produces an RBI. Good look at Matt Adams. Very unassuming guy. He's a big guy. He's kind of soft-spoken. He's not real kind of aggressive seeming at all, but sure do like his swing.
You know, he comes from a baseball hotbed, too. Think about it, Rick, because I know you know it.
From Lancaster?
Well, he is from the Pennsylvania area,
right?
Slippery Rock University. Wingington pops it up. So runners at first and second. And here is Chambers. Twice has grounded out to short. Two outs, 2 on. Gap into right center for Chambers.
You mentioned you were on the caravan with Matt Adams. Adrian Chambers was on the caravan with me this past winter, and just delightful personality. Every place we went, he was just so charismatic and fun and funny. And he has an interesting, in my mind at least, you know, I love his personality because he has personality. He's very confident, but yet he also has a humility to him as well. He has a respect for players that have come before him. He has a respect for the game, but he certainly has some swagger, too. And I think that's a kind of a good combination.
And he was telling us he felt all his years this was his most important camp.
Right.
And it's been okay. He's really tried to incorporate bunting a lot, and Cardinals have asked him to do that this spring training. Put the ball on the ground, use his speed. The one thing you and I noticed at the end of last year was his defense had really improved. His arm is better than most people think.
Absolutely.
This is his 7th year in the organization. And that's a base hit. Jose Oquendo, always aggressive. This time, not so much. Perez is thrown out by about 15 feet, but the Cardinals take the lead. Base hit by Yachty tied it up. Adams added to that. It's 3-2. For 3 with an RBI, and his day is through. And don't forget his special day, his afternoon is coming up. See him pointing to it right there? Yeah, not too bad. He gives you the thumbs up. Oh, yeah. I'd say I helped shoot that, what you're seeing there. Okay?
Yeah.
And so we said to Yachty, what do you think? And he said, I like it. I said, well, let everybody know while you're doing it. So he gave it the thumbs up. Now, I also helped with the bobblehead for Carlos Beltran, which is at the end of the month. Carlos has made some money in his career, right?
Yeah, he certainly has.
Okay. He said, Dan, you don't understand. He said, I'm being serious. He says, you don't understand. That is a good-looking bobblehead. I said, I know. Looks very good. You mind if I take it? Now, at that time, it was the only one in existence, and I thought the people that run this particular promotion were going to...
So you sold it to him?
Have it in? No, I didn't sell it to him. I gave it to him. He was very generous with his time. He said, my wife loves these. Into right field, and Taveras calling off Wong. And so he's got one from Kansas City, New York, and now we'll have the newest edition from St. Louis, and his kids love it, he said.
Players clearly very happy to get the contracts they get at the major league level, but there used to be a time where players really just wanted that first...
Bobblehead?
No, the first baseball card first. That was really what you played for. Now I think it has been replaced by the bobblehead, but not everybody gets a bobblehead.
Al's got a bobblehead.
Yes, he does.
I didn't realize I was going to start something that would explode and really go nationwide and then overseas. We've seen the bobblehead, the Al Hungo bobblehead that's made its way to our troops. You have...
I have one at home.
You took the head off of one.
That's the one I have at home.
Al is still not over that. I don't know if you have realized that. There's a kick in the gut to Al, you know?
Well, it wasn't really malicious.
When you take somebody's head off, it's usually not something that you look fondly upon.
Especially if it's on the postgame show.
Live TV, just rip his head off. There's my hungo.
I didn't rip it off. I turned. I wanted to see how far it would turn. And I went just one little turn too far. And the next thing you knew, I had Al's head in my hand. And
you ever seen the movie The Exorcist?
I have.
There's a strikeout for Lynn and what could be his final inning of work in that strikeout number 5. Kind of an odd afternoon for Lance Lynn. A couple times he's pitched into issues and trouble, but yet you look up and he's only given up 2 runs.
Well, he had a quick inning in the first, a quick inning in the third, and a little bit of trouble in the second and fourth. And not major control issues. It wasn't as if he was getting hit real hard, but just I think maybe credit the Marlins a bit for scratching across a couple of runs in the second and fourth. But overall, I would say very good outing for Lance Lynn. There's that slider that is going to be a key pitch for him, and he's still throwing it here in the 6th.
That's Perez behind the plate. We saw him make a start this past week. Very good arm. They love him defensively. Cardinals with the lefty throwing in the pen. Also a lefty for the Marlins. That's Randy Choate, who signed a 3-year deal in the offseason.
Fernando Salas also beginning to throw for the Cardinals. We should see Randy Choate, the new left-hander, and Salas, and perhaps Trevor Rosenthal here this afternoon. He's on the list, as is Michael Clado. Another one of those strong-armed right-handers that the Cardinals have in their bullpen as some insurance. We don't expect to see him in St. Louis at the beginning of the season, but before it's over, I suspect we'll see Michael Clado at the big league level again.
With the injury to Mott, throw some assumptions out there. We assume then the pitching staff is, for the most part, set, because then Miller or Kelly could go to the bullpen. One stays in the rotation. 2-2, and Wigington can't come up with it.
Timing matters at the plate, but timing is also important defensively. It almost looked as if he reacted a little bit too quickly and then trying to kind of slow his glove down at the last second and maybe overreacted on that ball hit to his right. So another rough moment for Ty Wigington here, and that's going to be it for the Cardinal right-hander Lance Lynn. And a nice round of applause for Lynn. The Cardinals lead this one 3-2 in Jupiter.
Jupiter, Florida. And the lefty, Randy Choate. Randy talking with him the other day. He says one thing you learn as you see his numbers is that the strikeouts are great. He said, but he really had to learn to just have guys put the ball in play. You trust your defense, and that's how you're able to come back night after night after night.
He has a very interesting delivery. He throws really sidearm to low three-quarters, and really ball comes out of nowhere. Very, very tough on left-handed batters. Part of the reason the Cardinals have invested in him. And that slider is just very tough to pick up from the left-hander's batter's box. And he's also durable, Dan. That's another thing I think is very important about Choate is he answers the bell, doesn't get hurt very often. He's out there, and I think he'll be a big help to Mark Zepchinski, having two left-handers out in the Cardinal bullpen.
The Zepchinski was nasty in his appearance yesterday.
And good to see that he's doing okay with his vision after a scare earlier this spring training while golfing, of all things.
As Adam Wainwright told him, hit it in the fairway and you don't have to worry about it.
Easier said than done.
Yes, it is, as we all know. Although you were telling me the first thing the other day, you ran into the media room and I'm working away. It wasn't high. It wasn't what's going on. I came to find out you shot a 79.
Yes, I did.
First thing I had to hear.
And everybody cares about my golf score, don't they?
Well, I know one in this booth does.
Actually, I do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 3-2 on the backup catcher this year, at least to start the season, Kyle Skipworth of the Miami Marlins. Cardinals with a lead of 3-2. And he walked him.
You mentioned, Dan, the bullpen being pretty well set now for the Cardinals. I think it's going to be a strength of this team. Choate loses his man here, and we'll probably see Fernando Salas to face the right-hander Gorkys Hernandez, who has 2 RBIs, both RBIs on the afternoon for the Marlins. But I suspect that the bullpen will be a strong point for this team in 2013. A lot of depth.
Garcia's come in. It'll be a few changes for the Cardinals. We'll tell you about that when we come back. And Salas coming to the mound. Third base. Wigginton out of the game. Salas is now the new pitcher. Tying run at second base. Go ahead run at first. There's 2 outs, and the numbers on Fernando Salas. He's had a solid spring. Kind of a forgotten man with all the young arms we talk about. We forget it was just 2 years ago he led the club in saves and part of that World Championship team.
He may fit better into that category as a guy you kind of forget about, but then he's just out there getting the job done. And the focus being on him at one point as the man, the closer, I would say he did an admirable job with that, but there are days where he's off. But for the most part, his changeup and his fastball are really his two pitches that have been very effective, especially that changeup. When he has the feel for his off-speed pitch, he's tough to hit. Almost as if he was typecast into that 6th inning pitcher, maybe the 7th inning pitcher. It may be where he's most suited. He can certainly go more than in 1 inning.
The check swing resulted in a strike. 2 balls and 1 strike with a runner at first and another at second. The Cardinals, if they want, Rick, looking at the schedule, off day on that first road trip as will open up in Arizona. Matter of fact, a week from today, we will be in Arizona. It'll be an off day for the club. They'll work out on Easter Sunday and then open up on Monday night. But they could skip their 5th starter if they wanted to, and that individual could be working as a long man. It's popped up and fouled.
Thought you were going to say high chopper to the right side.
And Rick is referring to the helicopter that just took off from behind center field.
I knew you'd get that, Dan.
That wall there.
There it is. There's the high chopper. You're smirking.
It was awful. Awful.
That's spring training, Dan.
But you are in mid-season form, believe me. Runners off with his pitch. Makes me think of the ring in San Diego. And it's a walk by Salas. And that is a reference to last year having an individual run onto the field and
a streaker.
Yeah, hop over the wall in San Diego and then run through the streets of downtown San Diego. And Rick referenced the rally squirrel from the year before and thought that individual may make his way on a ring as a catalyst. 2-run score, and the Marlins have the lead.
A flare to right field gives the Marlins the lead, and Oscar Taveras a little bit of indecision about where to go with this ball and tries to be a little bit too quick at the beginning, drops it, now is not quite sure where to go. At this point, there are 2 Marlins hung up at third base, and he threw the ball into second base, and then one of them scored after the fact and wasn't quite sure where to go with that ball.
2 outs and runners at the corners. Ground ball hit to short. Force play at second. The Marlins pick up 2 runs, and they lead it by the score of 4-3. Descalso will take home our Budweiser Player of the Game. He's 2 for 3 today. Couple of singles. Also turned a nice double play at second base. Daniel Descalso, the Budweiser Player of the Game. Some changes now for the Marlins. There's a look at Daniel. Colton Wong has replaced him. Mike Dunn is the new pitcher. He's a lefty. Nick Green is taken over at second base. And we've seen Dunn a number of years with the Florida Marlins, and hard-throwing lefty out of their pen. Then Pete Kozma, then Garcia, and Colton Wong due up for St. Louis. For you, is it hard to believe that Kyle Loesch is still without a team?
Yeah, it's bizarre, and a lot has been made of the difficulty of his contract. First ball swinging is Kozma for out number 1. But Kyle Loesch in that position of any team that would sign him would have to give up a compensation pick, and I think that's kind of hurt his value in the free agent market. And I think at some point teams are saying, well, I'm not sure we're going to have a need for somebody 4 or 5 years out, and that's what he's commanding in terms of contract length. And not all teams can get in that bidding war. I think at some point somebody's going to jump in and due to an injury and say we really need somebody. But Loesch was outstanding a year ago. Most solid Cardinal starting pitcher from front to back, and it is just bizarre that he is still pitching in junior college scrimmage games in Arizona.
And that really is the thought with the way that this works, is that a lot of teams feel they don't need to break the bank and give up the draft pick, the corresponding draft pool money. And also what happens now is that they've waited this long. A lot of teams are saying, wait until after this upcoming draft and then sign him. And then you don't have to worry about the draft pick. He just is a free agent without any strings attached, and you pay him what you pay him. You could see a team that feels that whether by injury or they need to get a pitcher to make a push as Rosenthal is getting loose. You could see that happening, Rick, where a team would say, yeah, why make a trade? We got a guy sitting right out there. Let's just pay him the money and bring him in.
Paying him money is still the key phrase there, though, Dan. You get to the point where you learn in real estate you don't want to buy the best house in the neighborhood. It's not a good buy to get the best house in the neighborhood. He's the best pitcher on the free agent market, and you just wonder whether or not you're going to be overpaying for him in that situation, and eventually it come back to haunt you. But Kyle Loesch has shown consistency over the last few years, and I still think he's worth a shot for a club that just needs 200 innings and needs a winner. And I guess, again, it's easy for me to spend that money and tough for some teams to come up with it.
There's Colton Wong. His one home run was a game winner against the Yankees here in Jupiter a couple of weeks ago. Well, earlier this week they said that the reports, if true, that Loesch would want a deal similar to Ryan Dempster and what he got, which was a 2-year deal. There's a good breaking ball, 0-2. Understanding that maybe the length of the deal is not going to be what he wants, but
right.
Still trying to get a multi-year deal. 0-2 pitch. Tied him up.
Wow.
He is smooth.
Quick hands.
You bet.
Good hands. Good instinct.
There's the alternate jersey, that third jersey the Cardinals will wear this season. Saturdays, one of those nationally televised games, the Cardinals will wear it. You can take one home as well, April 13th. It's presented by Lumiere Place Casino and Hotels. April 13th, take home your alternate jersey. There's a jersey pack this year. It's one of the packs that you can take home. It has a red Shandy's jersey, the alternate jersey, a number of others. And there are the numbers on Trevor Rosenthal this spring. Remember, Rick, he made the official first start of spring against these Marlins. Was a little bit erratic, and even admitted he was hyped up for the start. He has told us he wants to be a starter, but I think you would agree. It seems like his home is in the bullpen. He's such a great weapon out there.
I think he could do either eventually. And you talk to a lot of Cardinal people, pitching coaches and scouts around the organization, you'll get a kind of a variety of opinions about where he's best suited, but nobody will say, well, he can't do that. But I just think he'll be better at this, is kind of how the argument goes. So everybody's very high on Trevor Rosenthal, and why not, after what we saw a year ago.
No balls and 2 strikes. What about the idea, though, that Rosenthal can come in, and it's kind of the similar situation that the Reds are looking at with Aroldis Chapman, a guy that comes in for what you would assume is only 3 outs max, maybe extend him a few more outs or an inning or 2 in Rosenthal's case, but the guy comes in and he's able to go 100% max out with a fastball, and when he's a starter, you may be saving a little bit in the tank because you're thinking about going that 7, 8, or 9 innings.
Well, I think in his case, at least right now in his career, he's got to be ready to do all of the above, to go those extra innings, to be able to do that, to be conditioned to do that. Also maybe to close if need be on a particular night, especially now with Jason Mott being down for some period of time with the elbow issue. And I think you're better off if you're Trevor Rosenthal of just saying, I just want to pitch. And I think that's his attitude. You mentioned he'd rather start, but I think at some point you take what they give you and you make the most of those opportunities and you just get more.
I don't think it's far-fetched to say that there may be opportunities where we see him close this year, too.
Well, it's a long season. And as we said earlier, your roster on opening day, your rotation on opening day, very rarely does that remain static for 6 months, if ever. So you're going to need people to step up. I think about what Joe Kelly did a year ago out of the Cardinal bullpen. When so many players were struggling, Joe Kelly became probably the most consistent Cardinal pitcher for a 3 or 4 week stretch. Maybe longer than that. And he came out of nowhere. So players will get their opportunities.
1 ball and 1 strike on Greg Dobbs. Well, he tied him up, and that's a strike. Rosenthal was sensational in the playoff run. ERA of 0. A lot of strikeouts. Hit triple digits a few times. One ball and 2 strikes.
And that kind of experience at that level under the microscope, Dan, is like having 2 years in the big leagues. If you have post-game experience with a lot on the line and a lot of attention, and all of a sudden people are seeing you as a big leaguer, you're seeing yourself as a big leaguer, not only a big leaguer, but a big-time big leaguer in tough situations. That really helps the development of a young player.
In the air to center. Chambers had to back up near the track and puts it away.
Think about what that did to a young pitcher named Todd Worrell, who we saw here at the ballpark yesterday, and getting a chance to have postseason experience at a young age. And Todd down here for the weekend, along with many other Cardinal greats that have been here for spring training. We saw Whitey Herzog yesterday, had a chance to visit with him. Bruce Sutter was down earlier this week.
How much fun was that for us yesterday? Whitey was in a real talkative mood. I know that shocks you. So we were at dinner, and
I love him.
Man, oh man, is it fun to listen to him talk. He is so sharp, to the point that he was telling us about the intricacies of what Mike Matheny was going to make as a player when he became a free agent after his days in St. Louis.
He remembered all the details.
It's unbelievable.
And he said he spent a couple of days on the bus with Mike Matheny, and Mike just picking his brain. And you know, that, to me, that's a sign of a great leader in Mike Matheny, that he will ask people who he respects and leaders who've been here before him what they think. Now, he still knows it's his responsibility to make the decision, but he's not afraid to get thoughts from others. And I just find that to be very refreshing, that Mike is comfortable enough in his own skin to be relying on the Whitey Herzogs and Tony La Russas and Red Shanedeans to get feedback from them about what they may be seeing.
The other thing he does an awful lot of, Rick, and I've seen it down here in spring, is that he's willing to spread out the authority.
Yeah.
You know, he understands ultimately it's on his shoulders. The decisions will be his to make, but as you mentioned, he does get a lot of input from his coaching staff, and that's not to say that Tony La Russa didn't do that, but Tony was a different style.
A little more hands-on in terms of all the details, and Mike realized, especially as a young manager, you can't be on top of all the details. You've got to kind of just get through the day and get through the assignment, and I think he's done a great job of that.
Rosenthal, the strikeout. We played 7, and the Cardinals trail by a run. And the Cardinals are trailing by the score of 4-3. Along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. And Trevor Rosenthal, again, a scoreless inning, and very impressive, Rick, in doing so.
Wow, his stuff very, very good. We've known that about him, and he had a chance to show it off in his inning of work here. A good high fastball, and we'll take a look at that first. And it has a little hop to it. Just kind of jumps at the last second. Very difficult to catch up with that high heat up in the zone. Ends up getting a strikeout on a curveball eventually in that at-bat, but you cannot hit 100 miles an hour eye high.
So he went from 100 miles an hour, then a 77-mile curveball to get the strikeout. Here is Oscar Taveras. There's a base hit. Tried to extend that to a double back in the third, was thrown out. 1 for 3 on the afternoon. Christian on deck. And then Perez, the backup catcher. 0-2 the count. A.J. Ramos, the new pitcher for Miami.
Oscar Taveras, Colton Wong, Michael Wacha, Matt Adams. Future is bright for the Cardinals organization. So many good young players.
Bit of a turn on that pitch. To say about Taveras, talking with John Mabry about his lineup, he said he has the uncanny ability of being able to square up the baseball. He said no matter where it's pitched, he's able to get barrel on the ball, where other guys might get jammed. And he said he'll get jammed sometimes. He said, but he chases a lot of pitches, but still on-base percentage is very good, and he's able to center it up. A lot of hard hit outs he's talked about, too, and he's had some bad luck in the games that we've even had down here in spring. He's hit into some tough luck.
If anybody knows hitting, it's John Mabry. I'm excited to see him in the role as the hitting coach for the Cardinals, and of course we wish Mark McGwire the best in his new position. John Mabry will be a very, very good influence on young players like Oscar Taveras.
1 away. Brings in Christian StubHub. One of the best ways to get your seats. And that's StubHub.com. John also talked about, with me, Rick, the fact that this team went into those prolonged slumps last year collectively. And I said, why do you go back in the offseason, you look at tape, why did that happen? What did you see? He said, we have a lot of guys, as Christian catches the catcher with the backswing. They could ill afford to have that. They already have one backup that's out. But his point was, we have a lot of guys that have a similar approach, similar swing at the plate, and a pitcher sees that he's getting one guy out that way, I'm going to go to the next guy that way.
Left elbow. Didn't seem anything out of the ordinary with that swing from Christian. Just the pitch ended up so far inside and high that the bat of Christian catches the elbow of the catcher, Skipworth, and very vulnerable position, and they can ill afford to lose him.
You know, Christian was an All-American at Southeast Missouri State, and his pro career began playing for Jack Clark and the River City Rascals, independent baseball just outside St. Louis.
Another former Rascal here in the complex. Jason Simon Tachi played for the Rascals at one point, is now a minor league coach in the organization. Good to see him, and he's very happy to be back in a Cardinal uniform.
He said that he'll be the pitching coach at Peoria.
Correct.
Cardinals will have an affiliate at Peoria this year. Eric Pappas is one of the coaches, too, on that squad. Two balls and one strike on Christian. Cardinals trail 4-3 as we play here in the top of the 8th. Christian has seen the big leagues with the New York Yankees, also with San Francisco. Appeared briefly with the Giants, and that means he'll take home a World Series ring from last year. The 2-2. Waves at it, strikes out.
You mentioned John Mabry and the task that he has in front of him. I met a lady on the way up here to the booth, and she kind of grabbed me and said, I need to get a message to John Mabry. I'm naming my grandson after him, or my son is naming his new son after John Mabry because we just think he's the greatest person on the planet. And you need to tell him that for me. So I haven't had a chance to see John yet, but that's some pressure right there. That a child's being named after you.
There's so many ways I could take that.
I'm waiting for which way you're going to.
No, I'm focused on the game.
Well, this very nice lady was very adamant about me getting the message to John Mabry. There's John. And another great Cardinal. And I miss Dave Ricketts. Spring training, you think of Dave Ricketts and George Kissel going from field to field here, teaching and coaching, and this is just outside the batting cage. Dave, longtime player in the big leagues, longtime coach, worked with a lot of Gold Glove catchers, including Tom Pagnozzi and Matheny, and of course Yadier Molina, who credits Dave Ricketts with teaching him how to catch at the big league level. I miss Dave.
Dave Ricketts is black as we head to break. And it's the Cards and Giants on Saturday, April 6th, Fox Saturday Baseball.
Mitchell Boggs has the 8th inning. And Boggs getting the news today, and I'll be hearing it officially, that his good friend and fellow reliever Jason Mott will be unavailable for some period of time. And again, as Adam Wainwright was very clear in telling us, it's not the tendon in his elbow, it's more the flexor muscle that is strained at this point. So undetermined how long Jason Mott will be out. But for the meantime, Mitchell Boggs, who was a premier setup man a year ago, will be the Cardinal closer, at least for now.
Talking with Mitchell the other day about his setup, you see his back is turned to home plate, even more so this year. And the whole idea is to get deception with that. And initially it started with just trying to keep his front shoulder closed towards the plate, not fly open. And now it's turned into a situation where he has great deception. Very tough on righties. And also, he just picks the leg up and a little quicker towards the plate. Adams had to stay down on that, and he makes the play for the first out. You know, even Mitchell was saying to me during the offseason, Rick, we had a chance to visit, and he said, you know, I know it's not my role, and this was before anything had happened here in spring training, but I would welcome an opportunity to close. He said, even start at some point back in my career. He said, but obviously with the team that we have, that's not the role that I have, and I'm happy doing what I do. But sure, those are some goals that he thinks about.
It's one of the things that we don't probably talk about enough at the major league level is when you're on a winning team, players are much happier in their roles than when they're on a team that's playing 500 or below. When you're playing 500 or below, everybody's thinking, well, okay, it's not working the way we're doing it. Maybe I should be doing something different, or should ask for an opportunity to pitch more or play a different position. But when your team's winning, you just get more into the team concept. And I think Cardinals have had a tradition of that, of developing and maintaining role players. Jose Oquendo, maybe the classic example from a fielder's point of view. And players like that become very valuable part of you winning. May not be the frontline guy, but Cardinals don't win last year without Mitchell Boggs doing what he did.
He had 34 holds that led the National League, also that set a Cardinals team record. It's a one-out walk. So valuable because he appeared in 78 games as well, and they were crucial innings.
Yeah, very durable, too. Late, crucial innings. And we talk quite a bit. We can remember a number of games, Dan, and you talk about it all the time, that there are times where the eighth inning's more important than the ninth inning. And Boggs often would have, just as it would turn out, the middle of the order in the eighth inning, and Mott would pitch the ninth, and we remembered multiple times where that happened. So really critical innings. It's almost like your second closer.
You know, Whitey was saying to that point last night how he would bring in his closer, and at that point in time it was multiple innings, but he said, why would I waste my best pitcher at the back end of games if I can use him in a crucial spot in the seventh or the eighth if need be? It makes a lot of sense. You know, now traditionally in baseball today, you never bring in that closer prior to the ninth, more times than not, but it lends itself to doing that if you have the game on the line to bring in your closer. Now, Rick, let's talk a little bit about how closed he is. And I asked him, I said, is it tougher than with a runner on? He said, absolutely not. Same thing. He just picks up the front leg and goes.
But being able to see the runner may be a little bit more difficult. Which shoulder do you peek over? I've seen pitchers before. I most notably, Pascual Perez used to actually look over his right shoulder.
Right.
He was so, well, he was a little goofy, let's put it that way. But when you're really close like that, you wonder whether Boggs could look over his right shoulder instead of his left.
Mitchell said that at the World Baseball Classic, it was refreshing to hear from Ryan Braun, who said, your stuff, number one, is nasty, but number two, ever since you went to this look, he said it's really hard for all of us that hit from the right side to pick up the baseball.
And I don't care how many years you've played this game, you love to hear a player like that say that they have a hard time picking up the baseball when you pitch. I mean, there's a confidence thing with that, especially somebody as good as Ryan Braun. And I thought the confidence level of Mitchell Boggs reached a much higher level a year ago.
And to follow up that, it seemed like after 2011, little check swing and Adams' only play to go to Boggs. You know, a lot of these guys had crucial roles down the stretch of that season, and winning a world championship, it just changed their baseball lives, clearly, but it gave them a different feeling of confidence that I can get this thing done, and they all came back, majority of them, looking like and handling themselves a little different.
And the feeling of belonging is critical to a player at the big league level, to 70% of your roster. if you are Matt Holliday, you're pretty confident that you belong in the big leagues. And you wake up every morning and you think, you know what, I'm a big leaguer, and I could go 0 for 20, and I'm still a big leaguer. But a majority of your roster is still trying to feel that way and to feel comfortable and feel like you belong.
A throw by Christian, missed the cutoff, and a throw down to second. Not in time as a run scores.
That's 3 RBIs for Gorkys Hernandez in the 8th spot in the order. And ball kind of got in on Christian a little bit. He didn't really have his body moving towards home plate, so he ends up throwing off balance and not a good throw. But I think part of it has to do with that ball getting so close to his feet that he actually had to kind of back up right before unleashing that throw. That's probably not his best effort, but it's probably not all he's got either. I think just the awkwardness of the positioning there has probably led to that errant throw.
Missed the cutoff, and so the runner allowed to advance to second base. And for guys that are trying to make an impression, those things, they do stick. Hitting the cutoff, just the little things to show that you should belong and play at this level.
Fundamentals of the game, they're taught at every level. Mentioned Steve Turco earlier. Coaches at the lowest level for the Cardinals, and he's just been such a good coach for so long. Was really my first shortstop in the minor leagues back in 1980, and that's how long he's been around as a player, now a coach in the Cardinal minor league system. He said they worked on cutoffs and relays for an hour 2 days ago, and they specifically said that's the guy you throw to. Every throw needs to be right to them. They did it flawlessly, and they played the game. The first throw was over the cutoff instead. He said it just happens. Yeah. It's baseball.
Well, strikeout for Boggs. And the Marlins add to their lead. It's 5-3 after 8. By the score of 5-3 as we are in the 9th inning. Matt Adams will lead it off. Another reminder, these tickets have gone very quickly. Still some remaining for the Musial Harmonica. And that is Friday, April 12th. Cards and Brewers. The following night it'll be the alternate jersey giveaway and then the gold and platinum glove giveaway for Yadier Molina on that Sunday. So very nice promotional weekend beginning on April 12th. Matt Adams. Then we'll see Shane Robinson. Here's a good test for Matt facing a lefty.
Exactly. We asked Whitey Herzog last night what he saw in Adams against the left-hander, and he said he'll be all right. And, again, I think Mr. Herzog knows how to judge talent.
You bet.
Pretty good swing there, a little bit late.
Matt was saying the other day, too, Rick, is that he felt he was pulling off a lot of pitches, especially against lefties last year. So a point of his camp has been taking the ball up the middle and driving it to left and staying in on pitches.
He has enough power, as we mentioned the other way, that he doesn't have to feel like he's got to pull everything to do any damage. He can stay back and hit the ball the other way and still do damage.
The 0-2 pitch to Adams. Ernie Moore, Rip Rowan, Mark Walsh, all down here and working behind the scenes for the Cardinals. Pitch inside, 2-2.
It was also very good to see Buddy Bates here yesterday, longtime equipment manager for the Cardinals, who takes care of the team down here and works with the minor league program during spring training. And Buddy has friends all over baseball, let me tell you.
The 2-2. Big gap in right center. Here's a 3-2 pitch to Adams. Leadoff walk. A pair of right-handers throwing in the Marlins bullpen. Here's Shane Robinson, his first plate appearance of the afternoon.
Fields beyond the center field fence there, Dan. There are fields that are back-to-back, and there's actually 6 of them, and games going on over there. And as John Mozeliak said yesterday, there's 180 guys playing on those fields over there that want to play on this one.
But sometimes you'll see the Major League Club call a player over from the minor leagues.
And the first couple of times you get that call as a young guy, and the Cardinals actually have a couple of guys in their bullpen today who are A-ball, AA pitchers. And the first time you get that opportunity, I'm telling you what, that is such a rush for a young player to be on this field. Even if you don't get a chance to pitch or play, you're wearing the big league uniform for a day, for an afternoon.
Or you can go to fantasy camp.
This is better. Fantasy camp's great.
Fantasy camp is here. I had the chance to catch Randy Flores.
I have a nice photo of that, by the way. Might have to share that.
I had to borrow some vital equipment from Gary Bennett. And we understand that Gary Bennett is going to join us on Fox Sports Midwest and do some pre- and post-game shows this year as Robinson taps it foul.
He'll do a great job with that.
Gary lives in Chicago and is coaching his boys' teams. I believe they're around 11, 12 years of age. But he'll come in and do some games. We've got Jim Edmonds doing some pre- and post. You'll be doing it. Raboski as well.
Chris Duncan has a few, and Jason Isringhausen as well. And look forward to hearing from all of those guys. And you mentioned the fantasy camp. Gary Bennett and Randy Flores both there this year, and they had a blast. Absolute blast.
That's up the middle, and a forced play at second. Safe.
Another hit for Shane Robinson.
And Tony Cruz will pinch hit. That might be one of those players that's called upon, Rick, that we're not necessarily sure who that player may be. No name on the back and a high number. So runners at first and second. And it brings in Tony Cruz. Now we do know 92 and 93. The numbers 92 and 93. That's Renfroe and Hooker. I believe that may be Tyler Ramatula, who's your runner at second base. 0-1 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ramatula split time with Palm Beach and Quad Cities. He was part of the All-Star team last year in the minor leagues. He's at second base. Cruz gets the bunt down. It's a beauty. And the tying runs are in scoring position at second and third.
Well done. No secret the Cardinals had issues bunting a year ago. It wasn't really their strong suit. And Mike Matheny is really impressed upon his team that we need to do things to move runners this year. And what's a little odd with this Cardinal club, so many of their players are guys that are power hitters. You could look at Freese and Craig and Holiday and Beltran. They're guys that you want to just see drive the ball, not necessarily move runners over. So when they're all hitting, it works, and when they're not, it's harder to manufacture runs. But a guy like Cosma certainly can do that.
Yeah, and we saw him come through key spots last year. And in this ball game, it's runners at second and third. Here's a 1-0 pitch. Matt Carpenter has moved to the on-deck circle. Very even keel, isn't he, when you watch Cosma play?
No doubt.
One-two pitch.
Quiet confidence, and really came into his own a year ago. First-round draft choice out of high school baseball in Oklahoma, and really struggled at different levels in the minor leagues, and maybe he was pushed a little bit too quickly. Always liked his glove, but the bat really came alive. I think he's still a young guy. So you just hope that what we saw to Pete Cosmo a year ago, we see again this year, or even 80% of that.
A 2-2.
Again, there are Cardinal people that believe that he can hit 260, 270 as an everyday shortstop, and that'd be plenty.
You bet. With this lineup, when healthy, you need a shortstop that just makes the routine plays. And if you get some offense out of him, to me, Rick, it's a bonus. This lineup should be able to score a lot of runs. Cosma to the right side. A diving stop, race to the bag, and Pete, a base hit, drives in a run to make it 5-4. And how about the confidence? And I, again, know this is spring training, but you send up a lefty to face a lefty. There's not many times you do that, and that's what Mike Matheny will do here with Matt Carpenter.
Jennings a little late getting over there. He just doesn't do his job. I think he thought that ball was going to get through, and he does not beat Cosmo to the bag, and opens up this opportunity for Matt Carpenter, again against the lefty. And, when Matt Carpenter is swinging the bat well, I don't think it really matters left or right. He's just a flat-out good hitter.
Ideally, what do you think the numbers may be for of Matt Carpenter with 450 to 500 at-bats, which he may get.
I think he could be a 300 hitter. And what he does power-wise and RBI that really depends on where you end up putting him in the lineup. Which I think is a big question right now. If he is playing second base on a regular basis, again, that's undetermined at this point, but you're going to want him in the lineup a lot, that's for sure. Is he better suited as a guy in the 2-hole, or do you put him down in the lineup 6, 7, 8? I think that his production will depend on where he is. Watch out.
To the backstop, and this game is tied. The go-ahead run in scoring position. We're tied up at 5-5.
Jennings a bit rattled here in this inning. And another indication of it, that breaking ball that just gets away from him. Doesn't really break, just stays up in the zone. And anybody who's pitched knows that feeling of the ball just kind of slipping out on a curveball. Not pulling it down.
2-0. Cosma with good speed. Runner at second base, and the 2-0 pitch to Matt Carpenter. Jennings can't find the zone. No activity in the bullpen for the Marlins. Cardinals have had a lefty throwing for quite some time. 3-0 the count. Cardinals were not afraid to use Carpenter as a pinch hitter against lefties, knowing that the counter move was to bring in a lefty, and sometimes it was the move that the Cardinals wanted to see. Because of that, he takes a very good cut and he hangs in there against those lefties.
Very good swing there. And again, it depends on which lefty you're talking about. I mean, if you're going to have Carpenter facing a lefty that's not maybe the top pitcher of the other team, you'd rather have that than a righty against a right-hander and maybe not as good a hitter as Carpenter.
Draws the walk. He also does that, too. Isn't fazed by the situation or over-anxious. Draws the walk. Runners at first and second. And Colton Wong will be the hitter.
And a real inning of frustration for Dan Jennings right here as he has walked the leadoff batter, a lefty. Gave up a base hit on a ground ball right back the box that he didn't get and was not turned at second base. And then a sacrifice bunt. Then a base hit to the right side where he doesn't cover first base, and a wild pitch to boot. So he has to overcome some negative energy right here to get back on track.
And Rick, going back to last year, one of those oddities that Jennings actually was much better against righties than he was lefties. There's about 50 points difference. Runner goes, and it's fouled back. Cosmo would have that stolen easily.
You bet.
0-2 the count on Wong. We talk so much about Taveras. When he arrives, and it's when, not if,
right?
When he arrives, he's there to stay, barring a collapse once he gets there. But Wong might be one of those guys that goes back and forth depending on the situation and how he fares. And he strikes out. Oscar Taveras will be the hitter.
Well, we know Cardinal fans can't get enough of seeing Oscar Taveras and looking at the bright star of the future for the Cardinals, and you're getting a chance to see him batting in the ninth inning of a game on the line here. So fun to watch this against a left-hander.
2 outs and 2 on. That's taken inside. Didn't miss by much. 1 base hit for Oscar Taveras. Earlier in the ball game, he tried to extend it to a double, was thrown out at second. The 1-0. 2 balls and no strikes, and Christian is on deck. I'm sure the Cardinals, their minor league staff, taking a hard look at this type of an at-bat for Taveras with a game on the line and a lefty out there that will be part of a major league club.
Matt Adams leads the club this spring with 14 RBIs. Shane Robinson is second. He has 12, and in third place in that particular category is Oscar Taveras, who has 10 RBI.
Zipchinski getting loose in the pen. And he's ready to go. Marlins actually caught a break. I think that hit the home plate umpire. Called a ball that's now 3-1.
I wonder if the catcher was crossed up on that pitch. Did not handle it very well, and again, a left-hander getting loose. Another left-hander.
3-2. And the runner's off with this next pitch. Just got a piece to stay alive.
He's not getting cheated. Taveras not going to a defensive swing here. He's very confident at the plate.
And that's what they say, Rick, that's exactly what you're talking about in this situation. There's no shortening up or, you know, he's going to let it fly. A 3-2 again. And he walked him. That'll be it for Jennings. So we'll step aside. Bases loaded. 5-5 game spring training action on Fox Sports Midwest. Here, David Freese on the left, Alan Craig there pictured on the right. New lefty in for the Marlins. Bases loaded, and we are tied up at 5. We would assume if we win extra innings, it would be just one inning of work, and then teams spring training usually call it quits.
Always their option. They can kind of look down at their bullpen and realize whether or not they have guys that need work. Zach Phillips, third left-hander we've seen for the Miami Marlins, will come into a bases-loaded situation. And some good at-bats here in this ninth inning for the Cardinals. Pete Kozma with a good at-bat, little infield hit, drove in a run, and then Oscar Taveras working a walk to load the bases.
A strike to Christian. The bases are loaded. 5-5 game.
Really felt for Jennings watching him pitch there. There's a kind of a reality that I can't fully explain, Dan, that if you lose it during the season in a particular game, you might get it back. But in spring training, if you lose it, chances are very slim you're going to figure out how to get back on track with the right feel of the pitch. And I mean, there are times in spring training where you just don't remember how it works. I mean, you just don't have the feel. You don't have the right arm slot. You don't have the proper grip on a ball, and it's just a big mystery to you, and you're just better off getting out. I know the feeling.
1 ball and 1 strike. The fly ball out to shallow left. That'll be caught. The Cardinals, though, have tied it up with 2 runs here in the top of the ninth. It's 5-5. The hits to manufacture a 2-run ninth inning, and they rally and tie it up. It's 5-5 now. Mark Zepchinski is in to pitch the bottom of the ninth and hopefully send us to extra innings.
You mentioned Zep looked good his last time outing. There's his spring training number, 7 games, 2.5 ERA, and you like the strikeout walk ratio that goes along with that. We mentioned his little mishap early in spring training where he hit a golf ball and something came up and hit him in the eye, and at one point he was very concerned that could be a serious eye situation. And mentioned that for a few hours he had kind of some bad news being passed along in terms of what the potential could be to his eye damage, but his vision came back and he's fine, and I think he's going to be an important part of this Cardinal bullpen, and I expect a good year out of Mark Zepchinski. He has good stuff. It's just a matter of, I think at times, him trusting that stuff.
Well, Zepchinski had warmed up, and we had to wait for Shane Robinson to take center field. Now he's there, and we're set to go. Echeverria will lead things off, the shortstop for the Marlins, who's been impressive in the field today.
I'll say.
The addition of Choate, you mentioned it earlier, Rick, how that could have also an effect on Mark Zepchinski. Why do you say that as he puts that one away for the first out?
I think there were times last year as the Cardinals were searching for that second left-hander that Zepchinski was really both the first left-hander and the second left-hander. Now, Mojica is very good against lefties, But I think when there's another guy out there, you're not the guy that's thinking, okay, I'm up for the 6th inning in the left-hander situation. And then you're up again in the 8th inning and the 9th inning. And it makes it tough for a manager to know which time to use you. And sometimes you get used in odd ways because they may want to hold you for a later situation that may not happen. And with 2 left-handers, you can kind of go interchangeable with it. You could use one early, one late, and I think it just slots better for a lefty reliever to have somebody out there helping it.
Wilson Valdez just picked up within the last day or so by the Marlins, released by San Francisco.
So Jay Bruce and Joey Votto are batting back-to-back in the 6th inning of a game that's 2-2. Do you bring in Zebchinski there, or do you bring him in the 9th inning when they're going to come up again? And that team, by the way, is the team that I think most would say will be the main competition for the Cardinals in the National League Central Division. The Reds, I think, made themselves better this offseason.
The rotation stays intact. On paper, it's Cueto, Latos, Arroyo, Bailey, and then Mike Leake makes the team because Chapman will be your closer. So in their bullpen, you know, Sean Marshall is out there. They've got Broxton. They've got Aroldis Chapman. I mean, that's outstanding bullpen.
So all that has been an important part of their success, their pitching, but having Chu in the outfield and a guy that's not going to strike out as much as Drew Stubbs did, I think gives them a legitimate leadoff hitter.
And that's where they really need to improve the club. I mean, it was historically low numbers for their leadoff man as far as on-base percentage and, you know, things that you have to be a winning club from that leadoff spot. But Chu is not a natural center fielder, though.
But I still like him in that leadoff spot, and I like the fact that if you're a Reds fan, from their point of view, that you've got Brandon Phillips in a more solid role that suits him, probably batting in the 2nd spot. He's such a good player, Brandon Phillips, but I think he's been asked to be so many different things on that team. He's hit cleanup when Votto was out. He hit first when nobody could lead off. I think he's got a chance to flourish in that 2 spot with Cincinnati.
Aspect of the Reds last year that was so good for them was the rotation. Those guys didn't miss a start. I mean, they had 4 of their 5 guys give them 200 or more innings. You have that, you're going to win. 1 ball and 1 strike. Chopped off the plate. Kozma gets the lead man. Oh, they get him. And the Cardinals may have been given a gift.
Well, to the naked eye, he certainly looked safe, but credit the play for Kozma getting rid of it quickly and taking a shot at it. Quick, fast throw. Close play at second goes the Cardinals' way. I don't want to look at that play again because I might see that he's safe again.
So on the naked eye and the replay, according to Rick, it's safe. And I think I'm with you.
And the slow motion replay.
Yeah.
And the still photo.
As Kearns pops 1 foul out of play.
Uh-oh, we're going to look at it again. Is he safe or is he out? I don't know. Maybe the eye is deceiving. We'll just go with an out.
So 2 outs and a runner at first, and 1 ball, 1 strike on Austin Kearns. It's Kearns and Dunn. Willie Mopena. Remember that trio? They were to be the big guns for the Cincinnati Reds. Never really panned out.
Well, they've got some new guns now. Frazier.
Big question mark, though. Can he be an everyday guy to take over for Scott Rowland? I think most fans would say absolutely.
He almost played every day as it was in terms of being able to play in different positions.
Great hitter in Votto. Bruce is going to give you 25, 30 home runs. 2 balls and 2 strikes. We've seen a couple of breaking balls from Zipchinski, and this inning alone, Rick, has been sharper than what we saw earlier in camp. That's good to see.
Well,
big weapon.
The first thing that comes is the sharpness. That's what you need. Then you want to be able to control the sharpness. If your breaking pitch is kind of sloppy or your sinker is sloppy, that's kind of where you kind of start. And then you kind of want to get that action. Then the action is, okay, that's a good plus. Now it's getting action to a location, which is where you really get success. When you're not only throwing a sinker that sinks, but it's sinking to that outside corner low and away, or the slider's not off the plate to where they're taking the pitch. It's a pitch that they have to offer at. And there are times where Zipchinski, we've seen from him that some of his best pitches aren't swung at. They're nasty, but they're off the plate a bit. And that's really what you need. Mitchell Boggs was like that early in his career as a Cardinal. His nastiest pitches were balls.
Start the runner from first on a 3-2 pitch. Coughlin is on deck. And the next to Austin Kearns. Way outside. And the winning run is in scoring position. Cardinals with Michael Clado still throwing in the pen. Clado, you might remember, was picked up for Brendan Ryan from Seattle. And Brendan really, he hasn't hit in the American League, but people will tell you he might be the best defender in the American League, if not in all baseball. And we saw glimpses of that in St. Louis.
And I saw one of the best prospects in the American League is a minor league shortstop for Seattle, so he's probably going to have that role until that shortstop's ready. But Brendan really did show signs of brilliance with the glove, and anybody's been a fan of the Cardinals for any period of time knows how important the glove is. Being able to catch the ball, make the spectacular play, and so many of our heroes, guys like Ozzie Smith and Willie McGee, Terry Pendleton, Tom Pagnozzi, just great with the glove.
Did you see that Willie is now officially a part of the organization?
Oh, couldn't be happier.
And with Mike as the manager, Whitey Herzog, you've seen him around a lot more. Clearly, Ozzie has made it a point to come back. And Mike was saying that last year it was more like Ozzie was there to accept the fanfare, not by his choice. It just, that's the way it was. He hadn't been around. And so this year he was really able to get, in his words, down and dirty with the players and, work. He said it was incredible, some of the stuff that he was teaching the young kids. And he had very high remarks, by the way, for Matt Carpenter and the way that he played second base defensively.
I think it's what maybe surprises some of the current players when a guy like a Bruce Sutter comes in, or Ozzie Smith, and they really get, not only do they get it, I think players know that, but they even understand them as players. And the fact that Whitey Herzog comes in and knows so much about Matt Carpenter and about his swing, and Daniel Descalzo and his approach at the plate. I think they're surprised that the older players, that the Hall of Famers, actually pay attention to those details and can help them continue to get better.
Well, we know for sure Bruce and Whitey rarely miss a game.
Right.
They watch all the time. 3-2. So for Coughlin, a base hit probably would win it. Runner will start from second base. Game on the line. It's 5-5 here in the bottom of the ninth. And the winning run at second. 3 balls and 2 strikes. That pitch right there is what Matt Adams said has been the biggest difference from the big leagues to the minor leagues. He said minor leagues, you can sit on a fastball, you know it's coming.
Yeah, they're going to try to trick you at this level.
You bet. The 3-2 pitch. And this should do it. Run will score, and the Marlins win it in the bottom of the ninth, 6-5. Coughlin drives in the winning run, and the Marlins take this one by the score of 6-5.
A good start today from Lance Lynn. I think that's the real big news from a Cardinals point of view. I think their bats came alive a bit with 11 hits today. We had a chance to see some good young talented players as well, but just not enough to pick up a win.
So the winning run, they start the runner on the 3-2 pitch. Coughlin with a base hit into right. He can walk on home. 6-5 our final.